The fluorescent lights of the grocery store hummed overhead as Sarah Mitchell stood in line at the checkout counter. Her clothes were wrinkled and worn, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. The canvas bag she carried looked heavy, sagging against her hip as she waited her turn. She kept her eyes down, avoiding the stares of other shoppers who seemed to take one look at her and make their judgments. It had been 3 weeks since Sarah lost her apartment. 3 weeks of sleeping in her old car, parked in different lots each night to avoid trouble. 3 weeks of washing up in public restrooms and trying to maintain some dignity while everything around her crumbled. The bag she carried contained everything she owned now. Everything that mattered, anyway. The young cashier, barely 20 years old with bright pink streaks in her blonde hair, began scanning Sarah's items. A loaf of bread, peanut butter, a gallon of water, protein bars, the basics. Things that did not need cooking or refrigeration. Things that could last. Sarah reached into her jacket pocket for the crumpled bills she had been saving. Her fingers trembled slightly as she counted them out. $43. It had to last until she could find work. Until something changed. That will be $38.75, the cashier said, her voice flat and disinterested. Sarah handed over the money, relief washing through her. She had enough. She would eat today and tomorrow. Maybe the day after that, too. But as she reached for her bags, a sharp voice cut through the air behind her. "Excuse me, I saw her take something." Sarah froze. Her heart began to pound in her chest. Slowly, she turned around to see a middle-aged woman in an expensive-looking coat pointing directly at her. The woman's face was twisted with suspicion and certainty. "I watched her," the woman continued, louder now, drawing the attention of everyone nearby. "She put something in that bag of hers. I saw it with my own eyes." The cashier's expression changed immediately, her eyes narrowing as she looked at Sarah. "Ma'am, did you take anything from the store without paying?" "No," Sarah said quietly, her voice steady despite the panic rising in her throat. "I did not take anything. I only bought what I could afford." "She's lying," the woman in the coat insisted. "I saw her near the cosmetics aisle. She looked around to make sure no one was watching. Then she stuffed something into that ratty bag." Other shoppers had stopped what they were doing. They formed a loose circle around the scene, their faces showing a mix of curiosity and judgment. Sarah could feel their eyes on her, could almost hear their thoughts. They looked at her worn clothes, her tired face, her beaten-down appearance, and they believed she was a thief. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to show me what's in your bag," the cashier said, reaching for the phone. "I'm calling the manager." Sarah's hands tightened on the strap of her canvas bag. Inside were her most personal belongings. Things she did not want strangers to see. Things that told the story of who she used to be, before everything fell apart. "Please," Sarah said, meeting the cashier's eyes. "I did not steal anything. You can check the cameras. The cameras have a blind spot in that aisle," the woman in the coat said triumphantly. "That's why she went there. She knew what she was doing." The manager arrived, a tall man in his 50s with gray hair and a stern expression. He assessed the situation quickly, his gaze moving from the accusing customer to Sarah and back again. "What seems to be the problem?" "This customer believes she saw this woman shoplifting," the cashier explained, gesturing to Sarah. "She refuses to show us her bag." "I bought everything I took," Sarah said again, trying to keep her voice calm. "The receipt is right here." She held up the small piece of paper, but no one seemed interested in looking at it. The manager crossed his arms. "Ma'am, if you have nothing to hide, you should have no problem showing us what's in your bag. Otherwise, I'll have to call the police." "The police." Sarah's stomach dropped. She could not afford another problem. Could not afford any more complications in her life. But the bag contained things she kept private. Personal items, memories. "Just show them," someone in the crowd muttered. "If you're innocent, prove it." "Yeah, what's the big deal?" another voice added. Sarah looked around at all the faces staring at her. Strangers who had already decided she was guilty. Strangers who saw a woman down on her luck and assumed the worst. She felt small under their collective gaze, felt the weight of their judgment pressing down on her shoulders. The woman in the coat stepped closer, her voice dripping with self-righteousness. See, she won't show the bag because she knows what's in there. She knows she's been caught. I just want my privacy, Sarah said quietly. This bag has my personal belongings. Then you should have thought about that before you decided to steal from this store, the woman snapped back. The manager pulled out his phone. I'm calling the police. If you won't cooperate, they can handle this. Sarah's mind raced. She thought about running, but where would she go? She thought about fighting back, arguing more forcefully. But she was so tired. So very tired of fighting for everything. Tired of proving herself worthy of basic human dignity. Fine, she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. Fine. You want to see? I'll show you. She set the bag down on the counter near the register. Her hands shook as she began to unzip it. The crowd pressed closer, eager to see what the poor, homeless-looking woman had been hiding. Eager to confirm their suspicions, Sarah pulled out items one by one. A worn paperback book with a cracked spine. A small toiletry bag containing a toothbrush, toothpaste, and a bar of soap. A water bottle. A flashlight. A package of wet wipes. Each item she placed on the counter felt like a piece of her dignity being stripped away. Keep going, the manager said, his tone leaving no room for argument. Sarah reached deeper into the bag. She pulled out a small photo album. Its cover faded and soft from years of handling. She did not open it, could not bear to have these strangers see the photos inside. Photos of better times. Photos of the life she used to have. What else? The woman in the coat demanded, leaning forward. There's more in there. I know there is. Sarah's jaw tightened. She pulled out a change of clothes, folded as neatly as she could manage, a pair of socks, underwear. The crowd shifted uncomfortably at the sight of such intimate items laid bare for everyone to see. Is that all? The manager asked. No, Sarah said quietly. There's one more thing. Her hand trembled as she reached into the very bottom of the bag. Her fingers touched the carefully folded fabric, and for a moment, she hesitated. This was the one thing she had kept safe, the one thing she had protected through all the chaos and loss of the past months. She did not want to share it with these judgmental strangers, did not want their eyes on something so sacred to her, but she had no choice now. They had backed her into a corner, and the only way out was through. Sarah pulled out the folded uniform slowly. The desert camouflage pattern was unmistakable. The fabric was crisp despite being stored in her bag. The creases sharp and precise. She placed it on the counter with the same care someone might handle a religious artifact. The crowd went silent. The cashier's mouth fell open slightly. The manager's stern expression faltered. The woman in the expensive coat took a step back, her confident accusation dying on her lips. Sarah looked down at the uniform, at the name tape that read Mitchell in bold black letters, at the patches that marked her rank and unit, at the medals and ribbons carefully pinned to the chest, each one representing a moment of service, of sacrifice, of honor. That's everything, Sarah said, her voice hollow. That's what I was hiding in my bag. My uniform. From my time in the army. Is that what you thought I stole? Is that what you needed to see? No one spoke. The silence stretched out, heavy and uncomfortable. People who had been so eager to watch her humiliation now could not meet her eyes. They shifted awkwardly, some turning away, others staring at the uniform with new understanding dawning on their faces. The woman in the coat had gone pale. Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. All her righteous certainty had evaporated in an instant. Sarah began gathering her belongings, placing each item back into her bag with deliberate care. She saved the uniform for last, folding it again with practiced precision. The movements were automatic, burned into her muscle memory from years of service, years of discipline, years of giving everything she had to her country. Ma'am, the manager started, but Sarah cut him off. Am I free to go? Or do you still think I'm a thief? The manager shook his head quickly. No, you're free to go. I'm sorry for the misunderstanding. Misunderstanding, Sarah repeated flatly. She looked at the woman in the coat, who now could not seem to make eye contact. Is that what we're calling it? She picked up her grocery bags in one hand, her canvas bag in the other, and walked toward the exit. The crowd parted for her this time, people stepping back to let her pass. Some looked ashamed, others looked confused, as if trying to reconcile the image of the struggling woman they had judged with the soldier whose uniform she carried. As Sarah pushed through the glass doors into the parking lot, she heard whispers starting behind her. Questions, speculation. But she did not care anymore. She had shown them what they demanded to see, had exposed her most painful truth to satisfy their suspicions. She walked to her car, parked at the far end of the lot where she hoped no one would notice it. The old sedan had seen better days, its paint faded and scratched. One window held together with duct tape, but it was shelter. It was all she had. Sarah climbed into the driver's seat and sat there in the silence. She did not cry. She had no tears left. Instead, she stared straight ahead at nothing, feeling empty and hollow and angry all at once. She thought about the uniform in her bag, thought about the woman she used to be when she wore it with pride. That woman had been strong and capable. That woman had served her country overseas, had faced dangers most people could never imagine, had earned every ribbon and medal pinned to that uniform. And now look at her. Homeless, broke, accused of shoplifting in a grocery store by strangers who saw only what they wanted to see. Sarah drove until she found a quiet spot behind an old warehouse on the edge of town. This was where she had been parking most nights, tucked away where security lights did not reach and where most people had no reason to come. She turned off the engine and sat in the darkness, listening to the metal tick as it cooled. Her hands still shook from the confrontation. She could still see all those faces, all those eyes judging her. Could still feel the shame of having her belongings dumped out on that counter like evidence at a trial, like proof of her failure. Sarah reached into her canvas bag and pulled out the photo album. She opened it carefully, the pages soft from being touched so many times. The first picture showed a younger version of herself in dress uniform, standing straight and proud on graduation day from basic training. Her parents stood on either side of her, their faces beaming with pride. That had been 12 years ago, a lifetime ago. She flipped through the pages slowly, photos from her deployments, her unit posing in front of their vehicles. A shot of the mountains in Afghanistan, beautiful and deadly. Pictures of the friends she had made, the brothers and sisters in arms who had become her second family. Her finger traced over one particular photo. It showed her receiving a commendation medal from her commanding officer. She remembered that day clearly. They had completed a dangerous mission, evacuating civilians from a contested area while under fire. She had kept her team safe, had made decisions under pressure that saved lives. The medal felt heavy when they pinned it to her chest, but the weight was pride, not burden. Where had that woman gone? The strong, confident soldier who could handle anything. Sarah closed the album and set it aside. She knew the answer. That woman had started disappearing the day she came home from her last deployment and could not adjust to civilian life. The day she realized that the skills that made her valuable in the military meant nothing in the regular world. The day the nightmares started and would not stop. She had tried. God knows she had tried. She got a job working security at an office building, showed up on time every day, did her work without complaint. But the nightmares got worse. The sounds of the city traffic started to sound like gunfire. Crowded places made her panic. She started having trouble sleeping, trouble concentrating. Her supervisor noticed, started making comments about her performance, started watching her more closely. And when she finally broke down and asked for time off to see a counselor at the VA, they let her go instead. Budget cuts, they said. Nothing personal, just business. After that, things spiraled quickly. Without steady income, she could not make rent. She burned through her savings trying to stay afloat, applied for dozens of jobs but got nowhere. The gap in her employment history raised questions she could not answer without admitting she was struggling, and nobody wanted to hire someone who was struggling. Her parents would have helped, but they had both passed away while she was deployed. Car accident on a rainy highway. She had gotten the news through a Red Cross message and had been granted emergency leave to attend the funeral. After that, she had no family left, no safety net, no one to catch her when she fell. Sarah leaned her head back against the seat and closed her eyes. Tomorrow she would try again. Would go to another job interview. Would fill out more applications. Would keep fighting to get back on her feet. But tonight, she just needed to rest. She was just dozing off when she heard voices outside the car. Her eyes snapped open, and her body tensed instinctively, ready for danger. Old habits from her training kicked in automatically. Two figures approached in the darkness. Sarah's hand moved to the door lock, but before she could secure it, someone knocked on her window. Sarah Mitchell? She squinted through the glass, trying to make out the faces. One was a young woman, maybe in her late 20s. The other was an older man, with kind eyes and gray hair. They did not look threatening, but Sarah had learned not to take chances. "Who's asking?" she called through the closed window. "My name is Jennifer Torres," the young woman said. "I was at the grocery store earlier. I saw what happened. Can we talk to you for a minute?" Sarah's first instinct was to drive away. She did not want pity, did not want people who had watched her humiliation now trying to soothe their guilty consciences by offering hollow sympathy. "Please," the older man added. "We just want to help. My name is Robert Chen. I'm a veteran too. Marines, 2 tours in Iraq." That made Sarah pause. She studied the man more carefully and saw something in his posture, in the way he held himself, that confirmed his words. He had the bearing of a soldier. Against her better judgment, Sarah cracked the window open an inch. "What do you want?" Jennifer spoke first. "I work at the Veterans Resource Center downtown. I saw your uniform today, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. About you. We help veterans who are struggling with housing, employment, benefits. I wanted to see if we could help you." "I don't need charity," Sarah said automatically. "It's not charity," Robert said gently. "It's using the resources you earned through your service. Resources you have every right to access." Sarah wanted to argue, but she was so tired. Tired of fighting. Tired of pretending she had everything under control, when she clearly did not. "How did you find me?" she asked instead. "Someone at the store recognized your car from the parking lot," Jennifer admitted. "I know that sounds creepy, but I promise we're here to help, not to make things worse." Sarah stared at them for a long moment. Every instinct told her not to trust easily, not to open herself up to more disappointment. But there was something genuine in their expressions, something that made her want to believe them. "What kind of help?" she asked quietly. "For starters, a warm bed tonight," Robert said. "The Resource Center has emergency housing for veterans. Clean, safe, and private. You'd have your own room, access to showers, a kitchen, no strings attached. And tomorrow, we can sit down and talk about longer-term solutions," Jennifer added. "Help you apply for VA benefits if you haven't already. Connect you with job training programs. Mental health services if you need them, whatever you need to get back on your feet." Sarah felt something crack inside her chest. The wall she had built to protect herself, to keep going despite everything, suddenly felt fragile. These strangers were offering her exactly what she needed, but had been too proud to ask for. "Why?" The word came out as barely a whisper. "Why do you care?" Robert's expression softened. "Because I've been where you are. After I came back from my second tour, I lost everything. Ended up living in my truck for 8 months. If someone hadn't reached out to me, hadn't shown me that accepting help wasn't the same as giving up, I don't know where I'd be now. Probably not here. So when I see another vet struggling, I pay it forward." Jennifer nodded. "And I got into this work because my brother served in Afghanistan. He came home different. Struggled with PTSD. It took him years to get the help he needed, and I watched my family nearly fall apart in the process. Now I try to make sure other veterans don't have to fight those battles alone." Sarah felt tears prickling at her eyes. She blinked them back. but they came anyway. Hot and unexpected. She had not cried when she lost her apartment, had not cried through the long nights sleeping in her car, had not cried when those people at the store looked at her like she was garbage. But now, faced with genuine kindness from strangers who understood, she could not hold it back. "Okay," she said, her voice breaking. "Okay, I'll come with you." Jennifer smiled with relief. "Thank you for trusting us. Can we give you a ride? Or would you prefer to follow us in your car?" "I'll follow," Sarah said. She needed the control. Needed to know she could leave if this turned out to be a mistake. Old habits again. "Of course, the center is about 15 minutes from here. We'll go slow so you don't lose us." Sarah watched them walk back to their car, a sensible sedan parked a few spaces away. She started her engine and waited for them to pull out, then followed their taillights through the dark streets. As she drove, her mind was racing. Part of her still wanted to turn around, to run away from this offer of help because accepting it meant admitting how badly she needed it. But another part, a deeper part that she had been trying to ignore for months, was desperate for relief. Desperate to stop fighting alone. The Veterans Resource Center was a modest building in a quiet neighborhood. Warm light glowed from the windows, making it look welcoming despite the late hour. Jennifer and Robert led Sarah inside, where a woman at the front desk greeted them with a smile that seemed genuine, not forced. "This is Sarah," Jennifer said. "She needs emergency housing for tonight." The desk attendant nodded and pulled out some paperwork. "Of course. We have a room ready. Sarah, I'll just need you to fill out some basic information, and then we can get you settled." Sarah filled out the forms with shaking hands, her mind still not quite believing this was happening. That people were helping her without judgment, without making her feel small or broken. When the paperwork was done, Robert walked her to her room. It was small but clean, with a real bed covered in fresh linens, a small desk, and a private bathroom. Sarah stood in the doorway, taking it all in. "There's a communal kitchen down the hall if you get hungry," Robert said. "It's stocked with basics. Help yourself to whatever you need. And tomorrow, Jennifer will meet with you around 10 to start working on a plan." "Sound good?" Sarah nodded, not trusting her voice. Robert put a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You did the hard part, Sarah. You survived. Now let us help you do more than survive. Let us help you live again." After he left, Sarah sat on the edge of the bed and ran her hand over the blanket. It was soft, clean, and smelled like detergent. She could not remember the last time she had slept in a real bed. She took a long, hot shower, standing under the water until it ran cold. She washed away weeks of stress and shame and exhaustion. When she finally emerged and looked at herself in the mirror, she barely recognized the woman staring back. Her face was thinner than she remembered, lines of worry etched around her eyes. But there was something else there too now, something that might have been hope. That night, Sarah slept in a real bed for the first time in weeks. And for the first time in months, she did not have nightmares. She slept deeply and peacefully, her body finally able to rest now that she was safe. When she woke the next morning, sunlight was streaming through the window. For a moment, she was disoriented, forgetting where she was. Then she remembered. The grocery store. The uniform. Jennifer and Robert finding her. All of it. Sarah got dressed and made her way to the kitchen, where she found coffee brewing and other early risers sitting at tables, eating breakfast. Some of them nodded at her in greeting. Others were lost in the 3 months passed like pages turning in a book Sarah never thought she would get to finish. Jennifer had not lied about the resources available. Within the first week, they had Sarah enrolled in VA benefits she had never known existed. They helped her file for disability compensation for her PTSD, connected her with a therapist who specialized in working with combat veterans, and got her into a job training program focused on skilled trades. The therapy was harder than Sarah expected. Talking about the things she had seen, the things she had done, the losses she had endured, it all hurt. But her therapist, Dr. Patricia Alvarez was patient and kind. She never pushed too hard, never made Sarah feel weak for struggling. Slowly, week by week, Sarah began to understand that asking for help was not surrender. It was survival. The job training program connected her with an apprenticeship at a local electricians company. The owner, a gruff man named Tom Hendricks, was himself a Navy veteran. He took one look at Sarah's military record and hired her on the spot. "You can learn the technical stuff," he said. "The discipline, the work ethic, the ability to handle pressure, that's what I can't teach. And you've already got all that." Sarah threw herself into the work. Her hands learned to strip wires and install fixtures. Her mind absorbed the technical knowledge like a sponge. She showed up early and stayed late, determined to prove herself, determined to rebuild. By the end of the second month, she had saved enough for a security deposit on a small apartment. It was not much a studio with old carpet and a kitchen barely big enough to turn around in, but it was hers. She had a key. She had a door that locked. She had a home. The first night in her new place, Sarah unpacked her canvas bag for the last time. She carefully hung her uniform in the closet, arranging it with the same precision she had learned in the military. The photo album found a place on the small bookshelf. Her few belongings filled the space and made it feel lived in. She stood in the middle of her apartment and looked around. Such a small space, but it represented everything. It represented survival. It represented the help she had finally accepted. It represented a future that was possible again. On a Saturday morning in her third month of recovery, Sarah was shopping for groceries. She had returned to the same store where everything had happened. Not because she wanted to relive the humiliation, but because she refused to let that memory have power over her. She would not hide, would not be ashamed. She was comparing prices on pasta when she heard a familiar voice. "Excuse me, miss?" Sarah turned to find the young cashier from that day. The one with pink streaks in her hair. The girl looked nervous, her hands fidgeting with the hem of her work vest. "I don't know if you remember me," the cashier started. "From a few months ago. You were accused of shoplifting, and—" "I remember," Sarah said quietly. The girl's face flushed red. "I wanted to apologize. I should have given you the benefit of the doubt. Should have checked the cameras first, or at least listened to you. Instead, I assumed the worst. And I'm sorry. Really sorry." Sarah studied the young woman's face and saw genuine remorse there. She could hold on to her anger, could make this girl feel worse than she already clearly did. But what would that accomplish? Sarah had learned in therapy that carrying resentment was like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. "Thank you for the apology," Sarah said. "I appreciate it. I've been thinking about what happened ever since," the cashier continued. "About how quick I was to judge you based on how you looked. My manager, he felt terrible too. We both did. It made me realize how often I make assumptions about people without knowing their story. We all do it sometimes," Sarah admitted. "The important thing is learning from it." The girl nodded, relief visible on her face. Are you doing okay now?" "If you don't mind me asking," Sarah smiled, and it felt genuine. "I am. Much better, actually. I got help. Got back on my feet. Things are good." "I'm really glad to hear that." The cashier shifted her weight. "I know it doesn't change what happened, but if there's ever anything I can do—" "Actually," Sarah said, an idea forming. "Do you guys still have that community board by the entrance, where people post flyers and stuff?" "Yeah, we do. I volunteer at the Veterans Resource Center now. We're always looking for donations, clothes, toiletries, non-perishable food. If you really want to do something, maybe you could put up a flyer about it? Help us reach people who need it?" The cashier's face brightened. "I'd be happy to. That's a great idea. Just bring me the flyer, and I'll make sure it goes up." "Thank you," Sarah said. "And thank you for the apology. It took courage to approach me." After the girl walked away, Sarah continued her shopping with a lighter heart. The encounter could have been painful, could have reopened old wounds. Instead, It felt like closure, like proof that people could grow and change. She was loading her groceries into her car when she noticed an older woman struggling with her bags in the next row. The woman looked to be in her 70s, trying to balance multiple heavy bags while digging for her keys. "Can I help you with those?" Sarah called out. The woman looked up, startled, then smiled gratefully. "Oh, would you? That would be wonderful. I always buy too much and then can't manage it all." Sarah carried the bags to the woman's car, helping her load them into the trunk. As she worked, the woman studied her curiously. "You look so familiar," the woman said. "Have we met before?" Sarah paused, then realized where she recognized the woman from. This was the woman in the expensive coat. The one who had accused her. The one who had started everything that terrible day. The woman must have seen the recognition in Sarah's eyes because her expression changed. Her face went pale and her hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my God," she whispered. "You're the woman from the store. The one I... Oh my God, I'm so sorry." Sarah could have walked away. Could have let the woman stew in her guilt and shame. But she found she did not want to. Holding on to anger, she had learned, only hurt the person carrying it. "It's okay," Sarah said. "No, it's not," the woman insisted, tears forming in her eyes. "What I did was horrible. I made assumptions. I publicly humiliated you. I've thought about that day so many times, wished I could take it back. And here you are helping me with my groceries when you should be." She trailed off, unable to finish. "Should be what? Angry?" "I was. For a while." Sarah leaned against the car. "But I've learned that everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has moments they're not proud of. What matters is what we do after." The woman wiped at her eyes. "I volunteer at a homeless shelter now. 3 days a week. I couldn't stop thinking about how I treated you. How I looked at you like you were less than human just because you were struggling. I wanted to do better. Be better." "That's good," Sarah said sincerely. "That's really good. How are you? Did you get help? I know that's probably too personal to ask. But I've worried." "I'm doing well," Sarah interrupted gently. "I got connected with a Veterans Resource Center. They helped me get back on my feet. I have an apartment now. A job. I'm okay." Quote. The relief on the woman's face was profound. "I'm so glad. So very glad." She reached into her purse and pulled out a card. "This is my information. If you ever need anything at all, please call me. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but if there's any way I can make amends." Sarah took the card and looked at it. Eleanor Bradshaw, a phone number and email address. "Actually," Sarah said slowly, "the resource center where I volunteer is always looking for donations and support. If you're serious about helping, that's where the need is greatest." Eleanor nodded eagerly. "Yes, absolutely. I'll call them this week. I'll do whatever I can." Sarah smiled. "Thank you, Eleanor. That means a lot." As she drove home, Sarah thought about how strange life could be. 3 months ago, these encounters would have destroyed her, would have sent her spiraling back into shame and anger. But now, she felt strong enough to face her past, to extend grace to people who had hurt her, to turn painful memories into opportunities for growth. That evening, she met Robert at the Veterans Resource Center. They had become friends over the past months, bonding over shared experiences and the understanding that only comes from people who have walked similar paths. "There's someone I want you to meet," Robert said, leading her to one of the meeting rooms. Inside sat a young man, maybe 25. With the hollow eyes and defensive posture, Sarah recognized all too well. He wore a jacket too heavy for the weather, and his hands gripped a worn backpack like a lifeline. "Sarah, this is Marcus," Robert said. "He just got back from his second deployment. He's having a rough time adjusting." Sarah sat down across from Marcus, and he barely made eye contact. She saw herself in him, saw the pride fighting with the desperation, saw the fear of admitting he could not handle things alone. "Hi, Marcus," Sarah said gently. "Thank you for coming in. Can I ask what branch you served in?" Army, he said quietly. Infantry. I was Army too. Logistics, but I spent plenty of time outside the wire. Marcus's eyes flicked up to meet hers, and she saw a flash of recognition. A fellow soldier. Someone who might understand. They talked for over an hour. Sarah shared parts of her story, not the whole thing. But enough. Enough to let Marcus know he was not alone. Enough to show him that struggling did not mean failing. Enough to help him understand that accepting help was an act of courage, not weakness. By the end of the conversation, Marcus had agreed to stay at the center's emergency housing. Had agreed to meet with Jennifer about benefits and resources. Had agreed to give recovery a chance. As he left the room, Robert put a hand on Sarah's shoulder. You're good at this, really good. Have you thought about what I mentioned before? About getting certified as a peer support specialist? Sarah had thought about it. The idea of formally helping other veterans, of turning her own struggle into something meaningful, appealed to her more than she wanted to admit. I think I'd like that, she said. How do I start? Robert grinned. I'll get you the information on Monday. Fair warning though, it's not easy work. You'll hear hard stories. You'll see people at their lowest. Some of them won't make it, won't accept help, or won't be able to overcome their demons. It can break your heart. I know, Sarah said. But if I can help even a few people the way you and Jennifer helped me, it'll be worth it. That night, Sarah stood at her apartment window, looking out at the city lights. She thought about the journey she had been on. From decorated soldier to homeless veteran, to someone who was not just surviving, but living, growing, contributing. She thought about the uniform in her closet. About the woman who had worn it with such pride. That woman was not gone. She had just been lost for a while. Buried under trauma, and struggle and shame, but she was finding her way back. One day, one decision, one act of courage at a time. Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. Just heard from Eleanor Bradshaw. She's donating $5,000 to the center and wants to volunteer. Whatever you said to her, it worked. You're amazing. Sarah smiled and set the phone down. She was not amazing. She was just someone who had been given a second chance and was determined to use it well. Someone who had learned that rock bottom was not the end of the story, it was just the beginning of a different chapter. She opened her laptop and began researching the Peer Support Specialist Certification Program. She had work to do. People to help. A purpose to fulfill. The uniform in her closet represented who she had been. But the woman standing here now, planning her future and ready to serve in a new way, represented who she was becoming. And that woman was strong enough to carry both the weight of her past and the promise of her future. Outside her window, the city hummed with life. Somewhere out there were other veterans, struggling the way she had struggled. Other people who felt invisible and forgotten. Other souls who just needed someone to see them, to help them, to remind them that they mattered. Sarah was ready to be that person. Ready to pay forward the grace she had been given. Ready to make sure that no veteran who needed help would have to face their battles alone. She was home now. Not just in this apartment, but in her life, in her purpose, in her understanding that strength was not about never falling down, it was about getting back up and then reaching back to help others rise too. And that was exactly what she planned to do. Our own thoughts. But no one looked at her with judgment. No one looked at her like she was less than human. She poured herself a cup of coffee and sat down, letting the warmth seep into her hands. She thought about the uniform in her bag. About the soldier she used to be. Maybe that woman was not completely gone after all. Maybe she just needed help finding her way back. Jennifer arrived at exactly 10 o'clock, carrying a folder and wearing the same kind smile from the night before. Ready to start building your future? She asked. Sarah took a deep breath and nodded. Yes, I'm ready. Sarah started the car and pulled out of the parking lot, leaving the store and its judgmental customers behind. But she could not escape the feeling that followed her. The feeling that somehow, despite everything she had done, despite everything she had given, she had ended up here anyway. Lost, and alone, and forgotten.